later time. Now next question was, regional synthesis is the essence of geographical studies. Examine. Okay. So again, taking the cue from our discussions, that is why I am taking the discussion of this question here itself. Simple as that. Let's again bifurcate these two terms, regional plus synthesis. What do you mean by synthesis? To synthesize. And what do we mean by synthesize? When we are trying to synthesize something in a region, then we are trying to do the regional synthesis. Now let's talk in some of the layman terms so that you can help in understanding of this demand of the question. So when we are talking about regional synthesis, we are talking about the synthesis of the cultural aspects, about the economic aspects, about the climatic aspects, environment, the political aspects, the socio-cultural aspects. Whenever you are trying to synthesize all these dimensions in a given region and try to find out the causal relationship of the phenomena, then you are trying to possibly understand the problems of that region. You are possibly trying to find out certain advantages that the region is having. Does it have an applied concept? Yes, it can have an applied concept in context of planning, challenges. What are the advantages? All can have an applied aspect in context of planning. So I hope this is clear to you. Regional synthesis, when we are trying to correlate the different factors which have been responsible for certain challenges or certain advantages that the region is having, that can help in better planning for that particular region. This is one connotation, but I hope that the understanding for the term regional synthesis is clear to you. Okay, so there have been certain contributions to this term. Before I give you elaborate example in this context, you can write down Feynman and Berry. Okay, you can quote these two thinkers. Now let's move forward. Let's say we are trying to do regional synthesis for Ladakh, the socio-cultural aspects, largely community of Buddhists. Majority of the population is from the Buddhism. Okay, so they are mostly Buddhists, and barring that there are also certain population of the other religious aspects, the population of Hindus, the population of Muslims, etc. So you will see certain variety of the socio-cultural aspects. Okay, so before that we can start even from the geographical context that will help you understand the regional synthesis around this area. Okay, so when we are talking about, let's say, western, northwestern, southwestern, around north and northeast, and south and southeast, so this region, this is the Zanskar region. Okay, encompassing the Zanskar mountain ranges. Now this region along with this area, this is the Changtang region. Which encompasses some important areas, okay, which include also the areas around Pangong, okay, and also the areas around Sokar. Hanle was much in news now because of the observatory, astronomical observatory that you must be knowing. So this is the Changtang region, and somewhere here, this is the region encompassing Nubra Valley. Which has some of the important areas like Diskit, okay, etc. Diskit, Hundar, and the Siachen. Okay, Siachen Glacier. So northeast is more of the area around Pangong and Hot Springs, where we also had certain skirmishes with respect to India and China clashes. Then in the northwest, this is the region which is occupied by some of the people who are the Indo-Aryans. So these are the Da Hanu villages. Okay. So this is the physical aspect. When we talk about the socio-cultural aspect, this region prominently, and even parts of Nubra and Zanskar, mostly they are associated with one important tribes which are located here, which are the Changpas. Changpa tribes. So there, here across the Da Hanu village, here we have a different tribal community which refer them to as the Indo-Aryans. Okay, and generally now the population is somewhere around Leh, etc. More concentrated around Leh. This is the socio-cultural dimension. Although majority of the population is Buddhist, however, there has been racial intermixing amongst the local tribes and even with the outsiders, etc. Now this is the socio-cultural aspect. Let's talk about some other aspects. So for example, let's say the environmental aspects. We witness generally the receding glaciers, plus impact on water resources. Understood? There is also LULC. Now in previous classes I have explained the mechanism of land use, land conversion. I will not explain it here again. Okay, so this is something with respect to socio-cultural aspects, the environmental aspects. Let's say when we are talking about settlements and demography. So population in absolute numbers is less. Population in absolute numbers is very less. Okay. So when the population in absolute numbers is less and the density is also very less, the maximum concentration of population is in Leh. So there are certain data which also suggest that as compared to the local population in Leh, the incoming tourists per year are almost 5 to 10 times now. That impacts the carrying capacity of the region, bachcho. Okay. So I will come to that. But when we are talking about the settlements and demography, so hence the settlements here are of two types. The one is in context of the nomadic transhumans, which are the temporary settlements. Nomadism, transhumans to be more specific, because it is seasonal. Transhumans, okay, and permanent settlements in Leh and surrounding villages. Mostly it was in form of rural settlements, and that too scattered rural settlements. Demography, population is very less. Population density will be very less even in the remote areas, 5 to 10 people per square kilometer, etc. types. So population in absolute numbers is very less. Now let's mention the carrying capacity. Now another dimension here which can be added is political administration aspect. Okay. Political and administration dimension. Now recently it has been separated, okay, and in context of a new UT, and administratively there are certain very remotely located areas which also possesses the difficulty of regional development and planning, bachcho. Okay. So there are administrative challenges in wake of connectivity, in wake of availability of hospitals, schooling in remote areas. It is very minimal, very basic. And in some remote villages, now some NGOs have started working, like 17,000 Ladakh, etc., who are trying to provide infrastructure and schooling. You must be also aware of the School of Rancho. Okay. So Drak Padma Lotus School, the school which was famously shown in the movie of Three Idiots. Okay. However, those concentration are around Leh. It is not around the remote areas. Now Leh has the maximum urban population when we are talking about the population in context of the other regions of Ladakh. Okay. And also Leh has witnessed an increase in the settlements in context of the built up areas. Now let's try to find out why we are doing this discussion is in context of the regional synthesis. Okay. So let's say we are trying to find out the migrations, reasons for migrations from Ladakh with the help of regional synthesis. So you can mention that there are different socio-cultural aspects. For example, when we are talking about the remote areas, these communities which are residing in form of transhumans, they have a strong bondage with the landscape, and hence they do not want to leave those landscapes. Correct? You can also make this reference in context of Topohela, which you also know that this regional concept was later on also taken up in case of the later developments in the human geography. So when we are talking about this special bond that the local tribals used to have with that place, now that is also eroding. Now that attachment, that bonding with the place, that is eroding over a period of time. And hence, when the children are sent to the boarding schools, even in Leh, across to the other areas like Manali or even to Delhi, you will see that a lot of students from Ladakh, they have migrated, especially to pursue their graduation and post graduation doctoral studies to other parts of India and even to foreign universities. So that bond that the child had with that cultural landscape, that is eroding over a period of time. Now what happens? Once they have been in the boarding school for at least 10 years for their schooling, now that they do not find that special bond that is existing. Hardly anybody who studies outside will again migrate to those remote areas and again go and settle and contribute to that landscape. Understood? So that is one socio-cultural aspect that is related with the out migrations. Then environmental, because the carrying capacity is being exceeded, we see that lot many number of glaciers. Okay, so we have seen that from the data from across the region around Pangong, from across the studies being conducted around Changla, from the studies being conducted across Zanskar region, etc., that the glacial melt is happening at a unprecedented rate. Hence the concept of artificial glaciers, which has been proposed by the Rancho that was shown in the Three Idiots movie. But there is a person who has been consistently working on the concept of artificial glaciers there. Okay, and hence we see that environmental impacts are visible on the most prominent economic activity here, that was in context of agriculture, and second is tourism. Now because of the higher returns from tourism, there has been shift of economic activity from agriculture to tourism. That is one shift. Second is the visible shift in the LULC. The land use patterns are modifying. The areas around Leh, they were prominently agricultural fields. Now they are converting them into homestays. And also there has been unsustainable impact on the water resources. So whenever there is increased per capita consumption of the water levels, okay, so what does that indicate? That indicates that because even as compared to the base of the absolute population in Leh locally, we see that almost 5 to 10 times the tourists are incoming there. So hence what happens? Per capita consumption during those 3-4 months, that is maximum. So water from agricultural fields are also diverted to homestays now, and you are witnessing there that there is severe scarcity of water in certain lean months, and because of ecological degradation there, we witness landslides, we witness floods in those areas which did not witness any number of cloudburst or any such events in the past history. Now that has increased or not? There have been multiple cases of the cloudburst and flooding across Ladakh, across some parts of Kargil, etc. Okay. So hence this is because of the breach of the carrying capacity. Then temporary settlements, they are getting modified. You would hardly see any nomadism now, especially in some areas around Pangong, around Sokar. Sokar seems to be a remote area where there were earlier so many families of these Changpa communities who used to reside there. They have out migrated, and hence what do we see? We see that all of them are now impacting the out migrations from Ladakh Bacho. Can we say that we have studied the reasons associated for out migration from Ladakh in a manner of regional synthesis? Very clear to us? Okay. Now this context of regional synthesis, the concept of regions, as we know, comes from the German school in context of the Landschaft, and pays from France, which later on influences the other school, okay, like Britain school, like US school, etc. So here we see references in the work of Patrick Geddes and also Herbertson, which was later on taken up by even Fleury. So what is the concept of regional synthesis that we derive from these concepts, these works, in the works of Geddes? So you are very well aware about Patrick Geddes. So Patrick Geddes focused on field studies and regional survey for demarcating the regions and regional planning बच्चों, having a applied context. Then Hubbardson, who combined the Geddesian tradition of regionalization and Darwinian heritage of deterministic approach in his study of natural regions. Very clear to us from the definition itself. Then Fleury also gives an insight on this concept for the regional synthesis. Okay, offered a regional classification of the world based on the problems and difficulties faced by man in achieving its basic needs on the earth's surface, like nutrition, reproductions and social well-being. So that can be done again with the help of regional synthesis. So in this manner you can give certain examples why regional synthesis is essence of the geographical studies. Here you need to give some examples like we have currently taken up. Take the example of regional synthesis and its applicability in some of the nodal areas, let's say Delhi NCR, Mumbai, Pune region, etc. Or take in the case of rust belts, which we have already discussed. Now bachcho, it is up to you how you can take examples from the other discussions that we have already made and use it in the context of the thought unit. Okay, I hope this is clear to you.